Well, all right. Time for
Hello,
some
Mr.
jubilation.
Yes, celebration. There he is.
Mr. Chief Bonehead, Roy Delgado. Welcome,
How are
everybody.
you?
Welcome all. This is a big one.
Absolutely.
That's what I say every time I fish, bro. Every time I fish, I go, it's a big one.
It's a big one.
You're gonna be telling fish stories today, Roy?
Well, I might because I'm actually a bass professional that just happens to design loudspeakers.
That's interesting. Didn't Paul Klipsch say I'm an amateur because I do it for love?
I think so. He said a lot of things.
He sure did. Welcome, everybody, to yet another listening lounge. We're going to be talking a little bit and sipping, and we hope everyone joins in. This is going to be a monumental lounge, since we are going to be talking about the much-awaited, much-anticipated Jubilee.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to it. We have a ton of content for everybody. Some really cool video content. It said in the credits that we would be joined by Chad Charleston as well, but he's going to be here in video format. So I think that'll be fantastic. We're also going to hear from Tony Martin about the industrial design that was worked on for the Jubilee. And then we've got a couple other really cool videos to share. So what are you guys drinking, by the way?
Roy?
It is happy hour.
I'm drinking my usual Michelob Ultra. It says joy in one.
Very nice.
So that means I can only drink one.
What happens with two?
I know, that's what I said.
Or three.
Mark, what do you have? What do you got, Mark?
So it's going to be another Belgian today, another favorite, Left Blonde. So
matches your hair.
Yeah, doesn't it? Thank you so much for that, Roy. But I'm going to pour it in a bourbon glass. Okay, so we're going to break the rules, just like Chief Bonehead and Paul Klipsch have done.
Yep. Dogs and cats living together. It's crazy. Biblical times.
And let me guess, Matt. Your favorite red in a metal cup?
You guessed it, Mark. Red wine in a metal cup.
But a Klipsch one, so it's going to taste even
red
better.
Wine in a metal
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction cup. That's a collector's item right there.
Oh,
well, yeah, that wine's gonna eat away that metal, bro.
It hasn't yet, and it's had some experience.
He's working on it. Yeah, he has a little aluminum poisoning going on.
Maybe it's one
that is,
slowly turning gray.
You know what, man? That connects a lot of dots.
That explains a lot, doesn't it? Really does.
Yeah, it does, bro.
Well, cheers, everybody. Hopefully you have some refreshment. And here's a toast to Paul
to Mr. K.
Yep.
Toast to Mr. Klipsch.
Cheers.
Excellent. We have a killer giveaway for this session. And the way it works is we will pick the best question from the chat and we will award the prize post session. So don't keep asking us when we're going to award the prize, because we have to listen to all the questions and really evaluate. I mean, everybody goes through these and really does look at and tries to answer every single thing that's asked, or at least point people in the right direction. So our prize today, let me share my screen real quick. And it is going to be a pair of the fives. Check this out.
Sweet.
So this is the Heritage Inspired, the fives, powered monitors, complete with HDMI ARC, and a plethora of other inputs, including a phono input, and really cool edge-to-edge horn on this. And it's the little brother of the soon-to-come-out rest of the line. So this is a fantastic speaker. It's been getting great reviews. So some lucky winner with a great question is going to get a pair of fives for their own.
Yeah. Swiss Army knife loudspeaker. really kicks some butt. Great product, that product, the 5s.
That's a fun
I like it.
So maybe we should launch a little bit into what we're talking about, guys.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I share a video? I want to open up. Yeah, I want to open up with the Jubilee introduction video. Let's talk
let's
about
get the
that.
parties. Let's get the party started, Matt.
Yeah, let's do it.
They sound okay.
So here's the video, the product features video. If Britt, if you can share that.
So well done, Matt.
Matt,
so
Matt,
well done.
Matt, did you write the music for that, Matt?
I did not. I cannot take credit for that, but we did curate that music, and it was, I think, the right choice for what we were trying to achieve with the Jubilee.
First time I heard that, Matt,
I got goosebumps.
And now watching it again, I'm fighting back tears actually, because
Wow,
the horns, the low trombones, the power of that music,
you feel it come in.
It's just it's a wonderful expression of what these things can do.
Well, thank you. That's what this is all about, right? Is the emotion that the music brings to the table. Now,
like that cool story that we got today.
Yes.
Did you read that, Matt?
Yeah, no, I didn't. What story are you talking about, Roy?
Oh, I thought you guys had gotten it too. There's a story from one of the guys through Upscale Audio got a pair of the Jubes, and maybe I should just read what he says. Is that okay? Say it's okay, Matt.
It's okay, Roy.
Okay, because I can't do it justice. I mean, I was like, oh wow, we got it from the guys over at Ultimate, and let me see where is he right there. Oh, he sends the first one and he doesn't have the attachment. Okay, so here's the story. It's called a customer. Seriously, you're blocking it? Crap.
We can come back to it when you find it. No worries at all.
No, I got it. It says one upscale customer just took delivery of his new Jubilee speakers on July 1st. He had been waiting for them since January when he eagerly pre-ordered the pair sometime after they had been announced and well in advance of when they would ship. Warren owns and all Prima Luna electronics setup, blah, blah, blah. Here's what, let me just get to his review. Expectations were exceeded. The realism, dynamics, and ease of producing a very enjoyable sound. I had a list of the first music I played, but because I forgot to set the 820 to play selected music, I play on Koba's radio sections and chose the Bay Area Jazz Channel and sat back to listen. What happened next was not what I expected. The physical size of the speakers dominated my thoughts, and I was thinking, what have I done? These speakers dominate everything in the room. Duh. The speakers dominated my attention, so I closed my eyes to focus on the music. I slowly drifted into another space as the music played and envisioned I was at a restaurant with my wife shortly after we were married. This would have been a rare event when we were first married. We could barely afford an occasional takeout. But there we were, in my mind, being with the woman I felt so completely in love with. The jazz were around the table, and the jazz station announcer became the waitress. There were no distractions via the realistic reproduction of the music and the special voice of the announcer waitress. That scenario lasted about an hour, a very enjoyable memory which will forever remind me of the first experience of the Jubilees and my lovely wife. We were married for 47 years when she passed away 3 years ago from AML. Not all memories of marriage are good, but this experience with my eyes closed, listening to the realism of the sound surrounding us brought a much needed reminder of just how much I loved her. The music and the voice of the announcer waitress was reproduced so realistically and that altogether it made for a memorable experience. This is what I will always remember when asked what I think of the Jubilees.
Oh my goodness.
Dang.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, and when we're talking about the benefit, we should probably back up for the layman who has joined us or people who are just getting familiar with this concept. What we're talking about is a pair of stereo speakers that are fully horn loaded with an active crossover. That is the Jubilee system. There is so much more to it than that, but in its essence, two speakers and a crossover is what comes with the Jubilee. I would like to take a minute, if we could, and just have Roy tell the group the story about the where this came from, how this started. I know the story, Mark knows the story, but some people may not know why are we releasing the largest speaker we've ever made now.
How long is this show?
You got to condense some of it.
Well, I mean that video you did of me explaining it, I think, because I saw it. I mean that I had the time to kind of relive some memories of how it all started. I mean, Paul Jacobs kids me about this speaker's been in production or in design for about 35 years now. And it really was because of the stuff that Paul Klipsch wanted to do. Basically, the goal was a Klipsch Horn 2. It was driven by his desire to take it back to a two-way. It finally did. We finally did get to the point where he was happy with the LF horn. I introduced him to the vented horn loaded system. It was getting ready for production, and he passes away. Things just weren't really. They just weren't set for it to. I kind of live by the, by the fact that sometimes things happen for a reason. And I think that extra time, because, I'm Pepe Le Pew, I'm Skunk's Works guy, I kept working on it and kept working on it and kept working on it because I really wanted it to be all the things that Paul Klipsch and I talked about, the things that it wanted to be. And so I wanted it to have all, he he's not alive to see this, but I wanted his fingerprints all over it. And I think we're there, bro. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, you've taken that approach, Roy, with everything you've touched, all the reworks, the Mark IV models, the AL5, the AK6. You constantly have come back saying, hey, this is how Paul would have wanted this to evolve. You have been very humble and very forthright with that you are extending Paul's wishes throughout these products. And the birth of this product just represents maybe his last wish for his legacy in the product. So this is, we've been around now, the three of us, for more than 3 decades. And I think as we're looking at our own mortality, let's put it that way, we want to, I think, look back on this time as, hey, we kept the fire going, and we'll hand it off to the young generation soon enough. I'm not in a hurry, but for us to have that be part of our time here to enable this, and with Paul's support and just all the executive support to do something so important for our customer base, first and foremost, but for the industry too. I think there will be industry people very interested in this because they know what Paul was about. And for this to be kind of that final expression of his design philosophy, as we have put it, I think there are many, maybe even retirees from this industry that are still paying attention, that will be very interested in what this product can do. And I would suggest it's a veritable bargain because there are a lot of very expensive systems in the marketplace that still cannot come close to what this thing can do. And some of those are about 10 times the price of these things. There are some products out there that cost, what a supercar costs, right? And these things cost what maybe a nice Honda Civic or Accord cost, I mean, and you can still get your Ferrari if you want. I mean, if you have all that money to burn, but it's like these do what is physically impossible for other loudspeaker systems. And
yeah, I mean, I agree. It's just, well, and the thing that most strikes me is that Paul Klipsch himself decided that it couldn't be the Klipsch Horn 2. It had to be, it was going to head up above the Klipsch Horn. I mean, his decision. I mean, I was floored when he said that, but when I heard it, of course, I'm going like, oh, wow, this is going to, bass is just going to be really, blah, 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 and everything. And then when he told me that, I was, I could understand, but only he could make that decision. Only he could have made that decision.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, and I know we've had this conversation before, and I know what your answer is going to be, but this is the only speaker that he created or envisioned that he said was better than the Klipsch Horn.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I
That's
mean,
a huge statement.
I mean, what he wanted to do was he just, we have 54s and 57s in the museum, at the visitor center, right? And I heard them the other day, and I was just like, man, these things sound really good. These 54 and 57, okay. And I could see why Paul was really interested in returning it back to a 2-way. A lot of people think 3-way is better than 2-way, 4-way. I always talk about the ways, and it's not really about the ways. It's about what do you have that can that will require the least amount of drive. I mean, because ultimately what happens is everybody wants to get to that magical unobtainium driver. That's one driver that covers 20 to 20K. right? So it's always about the minimization. Paul worked a lot on crossovers, and he just thought the less crossovers, the better. And I think he just came full circle. I mean, we also found out through some of the stuff that Hunter was digging through is that he actually designed an electronic crossover for the Klipsch horn.
Wow.
And you know, so here we go again, full circle. We're introducing an electronic crossover with the Jubilee.
So we've got steep slopes, which was a Paul Klipsch concept.
Mhm.
You know, we've got patent pending on the low frequency horn.
Actually, I have news on that, man. The patent, which I was shocked, because I've done other patents, and you have to get you go through the edits and you submit it and some more edits and more edits. It was granted. The patent for the yellow section was granted.
Don't have to say patent pending anymore.
Correct, Mundo.
That's amazing. So the
Let's
so
have
the
a toast to that. Let's have a toast to that.
Cheers. Cheers to that.
Yep.
Cheers.
Congratulations, Roy.
Thanks, man. Congratulations, Paul.
So you've got a patent on the low frequency, which is a hybrid, if I understand from talk a little bit about what's happening in the low frequency horn, if you will.
Well, you know, I got to do some early LF horns with Paul on the KP 600 system, and you know, and one of the drawbacks obviously is that, you know, you need a large mouth in order. You can have the flare rate, but if you don't have the large mouth, then it starts to, you know, kind of peter out. But if you add more mouth, then you can get to the point where it actually, you can see the flare rate. So, so one of the things that, and then of course, you know, we did a whole bunch of, you know, a whole bunch of vintage systems on the pro market as well. And one of the things that I often thought about was, you know, we really don't see very many sealed systems, on the, you know, out in the consumer world, right? The majority of them are vintage systems, okay, and that's to take advantage of the Helmholtz resonator, so you can get more output because it becomes more efficient. Yeah, the driver actually almost comes to a standstill, and all the actual bass is coming from that port. So I thought, so if we like the efficiency of a vented system, why don't we use a vented system in a horn? Because we know the horn is also efficient as well. You know, I'm a simple man. It was a simple idea, but it took a little bit. Took a little bit to figure it out. But once we did, what I really just liked about that is you don't have to have these huge mouth horns anymore. Now you're concentrating, or you're taking advantage of the fact that you have that extra output now to augment where the LF horn, even though it's still a 20 hertz horn, to augment where the horn naturally wants to roll off because you don't have the large mouth, it now augments that bottom end.
Well, it's interesting how the vented direct radiating woofer or subwoofer, you know, the TL small parameters apply to that. But when you load the front of those drivers with a horn, it changes those rules. And we have been on a path of discovery, have we not?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have. Yeah, yes, we have. And one of the things is that because, yeah, you know, these are, we have a program that I use for crossovers and also to design a vented system. And it makes the assumption that the woofer and the ports are just dumping out into air. I mean, just open air, right? Low impedance. There's nothing to compensate for. Can I change that impedance match, right? Of having it dump into a horn now. And so one of the things that, because you pushed, you know, you kept pushing and pushing and pushing. You wanted another woofer in the yellow section because you wanted it to be similar, or the comparison that was going to be made to what we call now the underground tube, but you know, the ones that were done under the radar. I thought I was going to get fired for that, bro. Anyway, anyway, one of the,
we should
that was
mention
really,
what that is. You should talk about a little bit about what that is, because that's really, this project caught fire because you were creating these and people were buying these from the cinema side, the pro side, and putting them in their house. And then the development continued from there. So there was a pent up interest in these well before we ever made the first one.
Isn't that ironic, considering that's how people put hi-fi products in their homes in the 40s anyway? They brought it from the cinema and they jammed it into their house.
No, I mean, well, because your amplifiers are very small, right?
Right.
And so you needed the efficiency.
Right.
I mean, you needed the efficiency, and in order for you to, you know, to even try to get it to any type of loudness, right?
Yeah.
And so you're right. They were bringing in these big horns from the cinema, and Paul said, you know, maybe I should fold that sucker a couple of times, right?
I brought a picture of the vintage system so people can see what we were talking about.
Yeah. Well. What? I want to finish that story first about what Mark was pushing me on. So the underground Jube has 212s, right? And so I said, well, that's going to change the tuning, Mark. That's going to change the tuning, because typically that happens in a direct radiator vented system, right? So, you know, Jesse and I, we shoehorned another woofer in there. It barely fit. And I said, well, you know, let's find out where we're at, and then we'll see how much we're going to have to increase the backyard chamber. So anyway, we did that. And I went to do something else, and these guys were trying to gather, you know, running impedances, because that's what tells you where it's tuned. And it didn't change. And I thought, no, you guys need to run it again, something's wrong. But it didn't change. And then we have this another prototype that we're working on, because, you know, I'm trying to gather data on all this, because it really is. It's to me, it was there's no cookbook for this. And so we had 3/8 in there. I said, put 3/8 in there, run the impedance, take out an 8, plug up the hole, run an impedance, take out another 8, plug up the hole, and run an impedance. They're all the same tuning. So I called up a friend of mine who has his master's in acoustics and was pretty sharp. And he said, well, I've never heard of that. Mm. And I said, dude, so what am I doing wrong? Well, that's just one of the attributes of the horn-loaded vented system. You're not dumping the air out into just out into space. You're dumping it into a known resistance, throat resistance. Yeah, you know, with a known air volume, and that's why that dominates. And I think that's why the tuning doesn't change. And
that's worthy of another patent.
Well, it's covered in this one.
It's covered, right?
It's covered. Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Since we just shared it with the world, you know.
It's in the video too. Since we're talking tech, I want to bring up the product manager Chad Charleston's video, so he can actually get into a little bit of the details in this. Yeah. We filmed this before, but Brittany's got his video ready to go, and this is really informative for the guys who really want the tech side of stuff. You know, the driver that we're using, that kind of stuff. So, hit it, Brittany.
Hit it hard.
My name is Chad Charleston, and I'm an associate product manager for Klipsch. I'm going to take you through a top-to-bottom overview of the Jubilee and the incredible components that take Paul Klipsch's final loudspeaker design from a dream to reality. Starting with the high-frequency portion, we have an all-new K693 compression driver. This is what allows us to essentially bring the Klipsch horn back to a two-way design, which was always Paul Klipsch's dream. This massive compression driver can handle up to 20 kHz while also digging as deep as 300 Hz. This driver features a 7-inch diaphragm with a 5-inch voice coil. The motor structure and magnet on the back of this compression driver is just absolutely colossal for a high frequency driver. This compression driver is then mated to a monstrous K402 horn that is finished in a non-shine premium automotive sheen finish to give it a smooth and professional look. At 340 Hertz, we then cross over into what I personally consider the most exciting portion of the Jubilee, the low frequency enclosure. This is a patent-pending design that is only used by Klipsch. This is a horn-loaded vented system that combines the efficiencies of both porting and horn-loading a low-frequency enclosure. Behind the middle cosmetic panel here, we have two 12-inch fiber composite woofers. Below that, we have three 4-inch Tractrix flared ports. When using a Tractrix flared port, you get more output before reaching the point of chuffing than when using a traditional straight-sided port. We then take this flared port system and place it inside a one-dimensional folded horn, which raises the SPL level even more before you reach any sort of chuffing or port noise. We also include an external active crossover with each pair of Jubilees. This is an essential component of the Jubilees. The DSP network adjusts the phase and time delay of each acoustic component to eliminate any phase cancellations that may occur. This active crossover also provides the necessary EQ and gain adjustment to blend the high frequency and low frequency portions of the speaker seamlessly. This crossover can be used in a standalone application, as it will come wood matched to the Jubilee finish that you choose. Or this crossover can be used in a rack mount application as well and comes with very sleek, contrasting black rack ears. Overall, this is not only a huge achievement for Klipsch, but also for loudspeaker design in general. Paul Klipsch would have been absolutely ecstatic to see that we are still to this day realizing some of his final designs. We do all of this for him and his legacy.
So true.
I love that last part. I love that last part. He's absolutely right.
Spot on.
That's fantastic. So I love the idea that this was originally going to be the Klipsch Horn 2, because how would that have gone over? You know, a totally different world where we have the Klipsch Horn 2 instead of the Jubilee. But for all that period of gestation, even after Paul Klipsch passed, and then we talked about the project, and then we showed it at CES when he was in his later days. Roy, I've got to mention when we came out with the original Jubilee concept, the one with the wooden horn that was far too expensive to reproduce in the real world, but beautiful.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
That was
I have one of those.
Do you really? Oh, wow. That was one of my very first photography ideas to go out and grab an event for Klipsch, and that was one of my first photography assignments, is what I was trying to say. And so those pictures of you guys, I treasure those so much, because I remember back being a young wannabe audiophile and seeing Paul Klipsch and the people lined up around the room to be interviewed, or to interview him and talk to him about that stuff. I thought that was so cool. Not only did they want to hear what he had to say about audio in general, they wanted to hear about his last project, the Jubilee. So those pictures to me signify my entry into that world of kind of where he was exiting.
Man, I remember multiple CESs where we had Paul with us, and he was treated absolutely as royalty. I mean, he is founding father royalty of the hi-fi industry. Anybody with a deep love and knowledge of the hi-fi industry knows exactly what Paul Klipsch stood for. And when he was living, to be in his presence and talk to him, even in his later years, he had his faculties. He would answer these questions. He would reference journals way back, AES. I mean, his memory was like a vault. I mean, he unlocked all that stuff, and he shared it. And he did it with his sense of humor in his later years. You guys were there, and Paul Jacobs remembers this very well. It was a pleasure to be in his presence, and an honor. And I
sometimes frustrating.
Well, I mean, we've learned to deal with engineers like that. Like, I mean, that's how we handle you, right? It's okay. But,
Yeah.
but you know, I was just going to say this about the Jubilees, and the passionate Klipsch horn owners. Anybody who owns the horn-loaded systems from Klipsch, the La Scalas and Bells, for example, too, explaining over the years what horn-loaded bass is like. What is it about? You know, many articles have been written in the old days of the audio magazines, audio, high fidelity, stereo review. Remember all those magazines and all the publications that would try to explain horn-loaded bass, how fast it is, how it doesn't sound like direct radiators. It doesn't have that muddiness. It's so clear. And the transient response, even the nature of deep frequencies where you hear more of the fundamental notes. Just explaining horn-loaded bass is hard to do. It's something you have to hear to appreciate, really.
And
feel, of course. And then you realize, and everyone for the first time typically goes, oh, okay, it's a new world. And even the roll-off of a horn-loaded bass system is not the fall off the map. I mean, the nature of horn loading, it is, isn't it similar a little bit? Isn't it a 2-pole roll-off roughly, Roy? I mean, I guess it depends on the tuning.
Yeah, well, it's your typical. The horn acts as a high pass filter, okay, and then you have the box, a sealed system, that has its own roll off, and so it's basically a 24 dB per octave. But what it is though, in between that 24 dB octave and then where the horn doesn't have enough mouth, that's just your 12 dB, roll off, that comes down.
Right. And that is what, people get their heads around, because you might see the numbers, but then what does the product actually do? Especially a corner loaded.
Well, and then I was going to say, then you place that in 8 space.
Right.
Then you get that addition back, because it doesn't have to move the whole thing.
Right.
So I often say, just to throw this out there, the original target for Paul Klipsch was the horn-loaded cinema systems that were behind the screens in the 30s and 40s. And the reason for that was because Hollywood at the time was investing all of the money in development and R&D for hi-fi. So the idea that not only is the horn-loaded bass the target, but the folding the horn-loaded bass was the genius move, right? And then using the corner as well. I think all of that together really kind of put us on the map to begin with. That was like the first audio patent.
Yeah, and I was just showing one of our new hires yesterday in the HQ the patent, the 45 patent on the low frequency section, which is pretty original, I think, to what we're building. And how, I mean, did a patent?
It's very original.
It is. So did the patent, did patents last 20 years back then? Isn't that the standard life of a patent, or did they last longer?
I think so.
Okay, because
I'm not sure.
The Klipsch horn low frequency section was ripped off by a lot of people in the industry. They tried to make their version of a folded woofer horn.
And some licensed it.
Paul licensed,
That's right.
He licensed it to a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's interesting to me now is where the Klipsch horn can reproduce a symphony and reach pretty deep. This Jubilee, you guys know how I am. I mean, with my last name, I'm a little bit about deep frequencies. And
you're just a freaking basshead.
Well, I'm a bass snob because quantity, I like quality, not just, I'm not about quantity, I'm about quality. And these Jubilees, man, when they go, they plumb the depths like they did in Jill's house before we did some of the video.
I have a video of us.
Absolutely. We were all.
I have a video of us. Marcus playing an Eminem song, and that Eminem song drops down to about, I don't know, probably 18 hertz, 12 hertz, somewhere in there, something crazy. And what happened was everybody went from listening to the music to feeling the music, but it was such a smooth transition that we all just looked at each other and we were like, somebody put the quarter in the bed. That's what happened. It's like everything just started vibrating, and it was so smooth. So yeah,
We
I've
were
got the
testing-
video of the
were
looks on
testing
everybody's
this-
face.
The structural
Well,
integrity of Jill's house. You know, we were like,
Yeah, I was
we
just
can't
gonna
do
say
this.
now Jill's got some foundation guys coming.
Oh, we were like, Jill, we can't do this to you. Your brand new, beautiful house. But we were giggling, were we not? And then I had to kind of get my composure when the camera started up, and I was like, this is insane. I mean, how do I not talk about what we just did? What we just did. It was the stupid grin, right?
Oh my God! Which is the goal, right? That's the goal. Beyond accurate reproduction, being able to say this thing can do what you think it can't is amazing. So I've got a video I want to show. Speaking of everything we've been talking about, the folded horn. So I want to tell you guys that what was amazing when I first saw these Jubilees is how is anybody ever going to get them in their house? And so we created a video
Very carefully
to show a
Bring
standard
6 of your closest friends to help.
Yes, exactly. Well, it takes some. They're heavy, definitely. But we got it in with about 4 people on each speaker. But it goes through a standard door size. This is the house of Jill Eskel, who we know has Klipsch horns in this very location in our house. So I'm gonna have Brittany roll this video, and you can see a quick setup.
Hey Matt, you skipped that part about where you had to chop out some of Jill's house to fit them in there.
That never happened. We got it in. I will say 2 things. Furniture pads. Put the little felt furniture pads under the feet if you are on a hardwood, and they just scooted right across. It saved the stairs where where we had to pick it up. But once we got it in, we put them on the little furniture pads, and they slid right into place, and that was great. And then the other thing that I would say is thank you so much, Jill Eskel, for letting us use your house
Oh my gosh.
for the setups and the interviews. It's total
What was
disruption.
What was interesting is I saw Jill, tugging along, trying to carry that thing too.
Yeah, that's right.
And, she's a tiny thing. She's a tiny thing.
No, don't mess with her. And those were set up by the time I got there. And one thing I immediately noticed, because I remember towing in, just helping Jill dial them in for her seating position, her couch, which is really, it's a great acoustic setup. Everybody, her house sounds so great in the listening position. It's fantastic. And I went up to them immediately, and I was like, "How much room is there?" Oh my gosh, there's a millimeter here,
a millimeter,
a millimeter there. I cannot believe how they fit in there.
Wait a minute, I'm an old guy. So how big is a millimeter?
It's not big. Oh, Mr. Engineer. But I'm telling you that the next question was going to be, because based on the fit, I was going to be like, okay, Jill, are these staying here? Because I wouldn't blame you if they stayed there. But
Kevin wanted. I talked to Kevin, your husband.
Yeah.
They're leaving.
I was like, let him jam on him for like.
Oh, he did.
Oh,
well, yeah, you're right. But he jammed on him that night. That and Ned, her gigantic cat.
Oh yeah.
He likes metal, and they were jamming on him. Kevin was just telling me he just loved it.
He likes heavy metal. Did the cat tell you that?
Yeah. Well, if he comes and voluntarily sits next to Kevin.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He
got
must
it.
like metal.
That's right.
And you know what? Ned's big enough that he can do what he wants.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool cat. Pretty cool cat. And yeah, Jill was so gracious. But no, I'm telling you, hearing it is believing. And I was very curious because I knew her Klipsch horn sound great in that position. So I was like, I'm very interested how the Jubilees will perform with the exact listening position. And then when we're standing there, we weren't even sitting. Some people were sitting. We were standing right there and in the spot, right? And we were just like feeling the floor, the subfloor. Obviously, it's her first floor, so the wood floor. It was a wonderful experience, and it was clear as a bell. It was so deep. It was actually one of those things where we're like, we're going to reach limits. The audio system won't be the limit. It's going to be things around here, this house.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We were. I was a little concerned actually. I was just like, this bass is so deep and powerful. It was unlike anything I've heard before in an audio system.
Mark,
in
the limits
home.
is the limit was science is really where we hit. We hit the wall of science of what could actually happen in that space. What I found interesting was the types of music that you listen to on it. It doesn't matter what you listen to on the system.
No,
it's so revealing and so open. And talk about the dichotomy of having these speakers be so giant but disappear. The image, they are so transparent.
Yeah. If you listen to what did we listen? Invincible by Tool, you've got a couple rockers in front of you and it's just blowing you away. But then you put on the Rimsky-Korsakov track and it's a gigantic symphony and you see all of them too. But to your point, there is no turning any dials. You just put in a different disc or track if you're streaming. And it's like, let's go. It's not genre favoring. It's just what do you want to hear next is the question.
So ideally you would have no sort of control except the crossover has a volume control. A volume control for the high frequency and the low frequency. That's it, right?
Balancing the amps, and then that's it. Set it and forget it.
Mm-hmm.
Set it and forget it. So basically, 2 mono amps of what recommended power?
2 stereo, what? And I don't want to.
Good question,
Roy. I want you to speak to this, but the beauty of those knobs is, how many people might put tubes on the high end and solid state on the bottom end, and it makes it easy to integrate what is inherently not easy to integrate, right? So the guys did a great job making it easy to answer that question. Well, I want tubes on the top end. I want solid state on the bottom. Okay. Or have them identical. And by the way, for the people that asked this question, I did notice, what amps did you use? We used amps that were quiet. Signal to noise floor, right? The noise floor, 130 decibels, right? So these were benchmark amps, which are kind of like our lab amps right now. But you're going to need some amps that are quiet. Because what's the sensitivity of the high frequency section? It's a lot.
Well, just by itself, it's 109.
Right. With a watt, 1 watt.
Right. And as I said in that video we did, that really was the biggest challenge for Spitz. How you lay out the board makes a big difference on noise. Choosing the right op amps or whatever chips he used. I haven't designed a circuit and I think I was still in diapers. But anyway, he chose all the right chips because he understood. I said, these things are really sensitive. And so I sent him some parts and drivers up there. And that's how we started to play with how do we get the noise down. Because
you're
we
talking
just
about
want
Matt Spitznagel, the director of
my hero
electronics engineer. Yes, yeah. So he's engineered a ton of electronics for Klipsch over the years, but he is a true audiophile and a hero. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so he spent a lot of time specifically on that. Once we got the quality of the signal flow, keeping there's I forget the sampling rate, but it's like, it's obviously overdone because we wanted that to be as musical as possible. Then the target became, okay, how do we get the noise down? And I just watched.
That's amazing. Yeah, there's some really, really talented folks working for the organization, and I will tell you that probably all of them chipped in on bringing this product to market.
Oh yeah.
It's a fantastic experience, not only to listen to it, but just the story behind it. To know that this was the last thing that Paul Klipsch wanted to create, and we brought it.
Well,
we have made that happen.
Matt, even from there all the way down to the people in the plant.
Yeah.
Who build this thing. We got the first couple built, and I was there. Me and Jerry. I'm the North Pole. He's the South Pole. We're just like. So anyway, and Jake and all them, and Terry, who's the finishing guy, our finishing supervisor, asked, is it okay if I go, because some of these people want to see these? And I said, absolutely, please.
Yes.
And so they came over, and then the next thing I know, they're taking pictures with the Jubilee, and I'm thinking to myself, Paul would love this, because his employees just tend to be very connected. And I thought to myself, Paul, Mr. K would love this.
I love that part of it, because those talented craftspeople, their hands touch the products that are then delivered and set up in people's living rooms, and then they enjoy for generations and pass on to other people. So, a little bit of their.
I'm taking mine to the grave, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But their spirit lives on.
Real quick, I jump in. Somebody said built with pride from a place called Hope. When I was a dealer, I loved pointing out the quality label that was sometimes inside the enclosure: product reliability and dedicated employees. That's the acronym from way back. If you ever rarely had to open a Klipsch cabinet, you would see that on the inside. I don't think we ever put it on the outside of the enclosure, but just the signatures of people making it. But that's an acronym for Klipsch employees that still resonates today.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead.
Absolutely. And at one point I want to make, because I know we're running out of time, but I've got one more video that I'd like to show that will connect that, because if you think about it from the factory standpoint, those guys had to make the underground Jube for years, right? As a Skunk Works project that Roy was selling out the back door. But then they had to pivot and totally bring the craftsman part of this to this project. What was the ID that went into going from a behind the screen project, a pro project, to getting it to this exquisite thing that all details were considered? So Tony Martin, our director of industrial design, has put together a really great video to talk about the Jubilee. So Britt, hit it.
It's Tony Martin. I'm the director of industrial design at Klipsch. Like with all the Klipsch heritage products, there's a certain amount of gratitude or privilege you feel being able to work on these designs. Many have been successful in the market for a long time, and in some instances, they are older than me. So you want to be respectful with projects like this. It is an understanding that this product was great before industrial design ever got involved, and it will still be great long after. The assignment was not to overhaul the entire product, making a modern art museum sculpture. No, to achieve a good design here was really a question of balance. Could we achieve the proper balance? The lower frequency cabinet had had its roots as a professional cinema speaker. It had a lot of utility and function, but it was never meant to be displayed or seen. So could we balance the function of the acoustic prowess of this speaker with design aesthetics, one not overpowering the other? Could we literally balance the visual proportions of the speaker between the large upper horn and lower cabinet, so that the speaker didn't look too top-heavy or bottom-heavy? And finally, could we balance the complexity that some of these design details added with the manufacturing? Well, to start, by adding a frame around the outer edge of the horn, we brought the wood grain texture up higher on the front face of the cabinet. But not only is the wood paneling carried above, the panels are grain matched, so that even though there is a physical break between the two areas, the grain pattern continues. It softens the separation line between the high frequency and low frequency portions of the speaker. This is a detail we've discussed before on other heritage products like Cornwall, where the grain has a waterfall effect running up one side of the cabinet over the top and down the other side. The frame also helps to add visual weight to the horn to better match the physical size of the lower frequency cabinets and aligning the widths of the two. On many of our products, the horn is painted black, like in the Reference and Reference Premier product, even the other heritage models like Heresy, Forte, and others. But due to the sheer size of this horn, we discovered a traditional black finish was too overpowering. It added a large area that shielded just too much light and hid a lot of the fine details in the inner throat of the horn. It demanded too much attention from the viewer. By skewing to a lighter metallic color, we allowed the light to travel deeper into the horn, and the increased gloss finish brings out reflections of the inner geometry, helping to highlight the details previously lost. We also added design elements which we've developed during our recent refresh of the Heritage line, such as upgraded aluminum binding posts with an improved flush-mounted input panel, making wiring quicker and easier, a pedestal-style riser base that lifts the speaker off the ground, giving a more pronounced stance that's visible when entering a room. And the speaker comes in our classic finishes of walnut and satin black ash. Above all, we aim to strike a balance with the industrial design of the Jubilee and add emphasis to its already amazing features. We're really proud with the overall design of the Jubilee, and I feel we've struck a very good balance between the acoustic prowess of the speaker and the industrial design.
Well said, Tony.
Very well said. You know, I have a story to tell about Tony. You know, when I sent him the models of the Jubilee, I said, let's see what you can do, you know. I ended up, Mark and I were showing the Cornwalls and the Heresies at a sales meeting. And unbeknownst to me, Tony had made a stand-up poster of the new cosmetic that he was working on with the Jubilee. And I didn't notice it at first, you know, because Mark's a pain in the butt. And so we were setting up the speakers and everything. And then I just kind of glanced over to the corner, and there it was. And I went, oh my gosh, that looks awesome. So I walked over there so I could check it out. And I, you know, so I think I sent him an email. I think it said, Jubilee looks amazing.
It was like actual size, right?
Yeah.
Or pretty close to it. He like made it. Yeah.
Yeah.
To see it in its glory. Yeah, they did it. He and his team did a fantastic job of sort of re-envisioning what that looked like as a forward-facing speaker, as a consumer speaker, you know. And I think that's a huge step in the right direction for, you know, all of that stuff. You guys have been working on all the heritage stuff for years, you know, just the updates, cosmetic and acoustic updates to sort of this goal.
All right. And you know, I read, as you saw the Jubilees in Jill's room, and then as I've done some demos with these like with audio video therapy, you know, a lot of people think, oh man, these need to be in a large room, and you know what? That's not the case. You don't require a large room to make the speakers work. You just don't. The reality of it is that the smaller the room, the bigger the horn has to be in order to keep it from reflecting off the walls. And so this misconception of just because they're big, you're going to need a huge room that's not really true. I mean, our demo room is only, I think, 18 feet wide. And they sound amazing in there. And they sounded amazing in Jill's house.
I think a lot of people will be comforted to know that to put them in a real world living space is a good thing, and they will function properly.
Mm-hmm.
They'll deliver the goods. But I think that because they have such a big sound, you know, sometimes people just associate that with, well, I need a big room too.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that applies to most Klipsch products. They have a big sound in their respected category. But these, you know, one comment I made, and I'll repeat it here, is that when people hear these, it will be a major reset on what they now come to know what is possible for an audio reproduction system in a home environment. And these have also been used to back up live performances in some of these dealer launch events. So people will be pleasantly surprised, I think. But this is going to redefine for so many people that are veterans in this industry, people that consider themselves to be veteran audiophiles, enthusiasts, music fanatics, you name it, you just the whole gamut of enthusiasts. This is going to be a major reset for holy cow, didn't know this could be done, and we have done it.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's I'm sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
But what was crazy for me as an audio producer is a lot of times you listen to the speaker, you're listening to the system, and you're trying to make that vanish and try to get to the room and try to get to the feel of it. And maybe it's an effect of just the intimidation that you have of sitting in front of the wall of audio that is the Jubilee, which actually, when you're in the room with it, it doesn't seem that intimidating. But when you see them in pictures, it's just like, wow, those are bigger speakers than I'm used to. But to me, there's this audio effect that happens that is much closer to if you had an amazing pair of headphones strapped to your head and then a haptic subwoofer on your front and your back. There's this thing that's intimacy, this immediacy that the Jubilees take the noise floor of whatever's happening and just shove it all the way to the bottom. That same thing that headphones do when you have really good isolation and you're just lost in it. There's something about the presence that it just takes over the entire room. And as a music producer, you always strive for that. You strive for that.
Well,
that
first time I heard them, and maybe some of the early versions, we were probably doing the pilgrimage thing in Hope, because the large horn, when you see a big, large, imposing horn, and you've been to concerts, usually that in some people's minds, the connotation, the association is, uh-oh, that's bad. I need to get away from that thing. It's going to tear my head off. But in Hope, when we were doing the listening and you were playing some of the female vocal tracks, Roy, we were trading off demo tracks. I was just like, that is such a natural sounding horn.
Yeah.
My brother was there too. He was listening and John was like, wow, that doesn't sound like, I mean, when you see this imposing large horn, you're like, uh-oh, I'll be in the back of the, no.
It does not sound like it looks, for sure.
No, you want to get up close to this one. And when you do get close, well, you still can't see it like you can in like the horn walls, but it has the wide dispersion phase plug. So it's an intimate sounding large horn. I know that's crazy, but it is crazy. Intimate and non-offensive. It is inviting. It almost wants to wrap its arms around you and give you a hug. Like, it'll be okay. You're going to hear some dynamic range that you've never heard before in your life. And everything else out there is compressed compared to these things. These are just like,
well, and if you want your music, if your music is the most important thing in your listening, if you want it to envelop you, and like I said, I think maybe that cradling effect is what I realized that became the most important thing in the room. That became the only thing in the room, and all the noise floor and the sound of the refrigerator and the sound of the air conditioner just went away.
Well,
and
when you can get to the amps, it's important about the amps. You need to get to audio black. That's why you need that low noise floor. But then you're going to hear it in your music. And Roy and I, we have painstakingly scoured the earth for good recordings, because this will make you a fanatic for good recordings.
That's a good question.
So after we got through the high frequency horn, it's so natural. This thing is fantastic. You guys have really nailed that. Now, I think the second part was, let's get the low frequency section effortless down to the depths of seismic earth. I mean, below 20 hertz. But the beauty of this system is, everybody study the Fletcher-Munson loudness curve. And that's going to tell you everything you need to know about what this thing can do at certain levels, that it's going to bring to audibility, because it's reaching sound levels effortlessly without distortion. And then, of course, the extremes of the audio spectrum, they're effortless, where every other system on the planet is working itself to death to reproduce this wide frequency response that your body can hear. Your body can hear and feel.
That's exactly what I felt. Yeah, it was effortless. I just couldn't believe it. It was just like, well, this, normally when you even hear you're producing something, you're recording, even say a drum kit, you're recording it with a microphone that's this big, and then you're trying to extrapolate sound from that, and then reproduce the frequency. So there's a lot of EQ and compression that goes into that. And then by the time you get to the end product and they're reproduced through a pair of speakers, it can sound so thin or so flat. But what I found about the Jubilees was there was a presence there on the low end that it's almost like what you do on the high end as a producer. You extend the high end up beyond the range of human hearing because the air helps you. It works for the human hearing. It gives breath to the waveform. But on the low end, there was such an effortless. It wasn't like we had a subwoofer hooked up to this thing and there was something thumping in the corner. It was just a beautiful transition from the two. So I don't know. Maybe
it was better. I would submit,
but
Matt.
They say it's like a religious experience.
Matt, absolutely. I submit that it's better than having a separate sub. I mean, this is a full range system. Yeah. This plumbs the depths effortlessly,
fully integrated.
And if all the enthusiasts for folded woofer bass, kick drum, any bass instrument, electric bass, stand-up bass, orchestral bass, whatever you like. I mean, now let's get into electronics. I mean, electronic synthesized bass. You can do crazy stuff, right? Synthesizers, but this is going to give it to you, and it's going to give it to you in a way that a lot of music is kind of pumped up because standard speakers can't do it. When you hear some of that through these, you're going to be like, you don't need to pump it up for these. These speakers are going to give it all to you. They could be the ultimate studio monitor.
Sure.
There you go, man.
For the big room.
There you go, big room again.
For all of our professional friends in the music industry, take note of that.
Well, I get, of course, I get asked questions about amplifier power or whatever. I mean, we demoed these at Audio Video Therapy with I think it was a 12 watt HF tube amp and an 18 watt LF amp, and it was just too loud in that room because I basically gave the control. I told them, you pick the song, you get to pick 2 or 3 songs, and then hand it to the person behind you. There was a place to sit. And there are a couple of secrets that I don't think we've told anybody. One of those is, the HF horn has a bracket, so you can tilt the horn down so that if you just happen to be like just 12 feet away from them, you can tilt the horn down. That's okay. It's allowed. That's why we gave the horn the adjustability to do that. The other thing is, because it's the Jubilee, the drivers are handpicked in the engineering lab and sent down as a set down to the factory.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I know that not very many people know that.
I didn't know that, well, but it doesn't surprise me because I think you take it to the next level, Roy. When you're talking about such high sensitivity products, that detail does matter where they are matched sets. Truly, that is important.
What did you see? Like one of the first comments that was put on there? Apparently, it's a guy that has gotten the Jubes, and he said that that it was a game changer. When I first heard the Jubilee, and Paul was listening to it. Those weren't the exact words I was thinking, but I was thinking this is like different. This is like, because I hadn't been with Klipsch that long, but obviously, I'd heard the Klipsch horn and stuff, and so I thought this is like another level. That's what I personally thought. Okay?
I remember you talking about the impression it made on you. Like, this is who I now work for. What a this is going to be a good gig. Right?
Yes, it's going to be a good gig. I'm still waiting for them to give me the big box to clear up my office. Been there 36 years, so we'll see.
Hey guys, I got a little bit of housekeeping, and then we should think about probably wrapping up because we are over time. but I've got some things I want to kind of address. I'm going to answer a whole bunch of questions at once from the chat of some important things. The Jubilee is an ongoing SKU. It is the flagship of the Heritage line. We will continue to produce it from now until when it's not feasible to produce it anymore, until we're all dead and gone. The Klipsch Museum of Audio History, who contributed a lot to the Jubilee production, including archival photos and recordings. The museum is open. On the front page of the museum's Facebook page, there is a email address of the curator. You can email him. It's open by appointment only if you'd like to stop by. But we are back to being open again, and we do thank them for all of their support. If you are looking for Jubilee assets, imagery, the spec sheet, all of that stuff, it's on Klipsch.com. Just go to the Klipsch.com and do a search for the product. You can find everything that you want, including information about our 75th anniversary Jubilee that's available as well. And lastly, I want to let you know that the winner of the 5s will be announced in this thread. We'll contact you. And we appreciate all of your questions. We're trying to answer them as quickly as we possibly can. So that's all I've got as far as a lot of information. It's like drinking from a fire hose, right? Like
Matt,
PWK.
Matt and Roy. So we're gonna have a speed round, and this is gonna be fun. I didn't even prep you guys for this because I've been thinking about it for the last few days. What would be like if you're describing this to somebody who maybe can't listen to them but wants to know what these do that is so different? Can you briefly summarize, and then I'll give you mine, okay? But can you just give a brief description of what these can do? Who wants to start?
Mine will be real brief, so I'll go first because I know Roy's got a lot to say about that. From a producer standpoint, it feels like you're inside a pair of headphones, but with all of the body artifacts that happen from a physical speaker, from the air being moved around you as well. The ability to localize, the effortless reproduction of everything, and a pair of really, really good headphones, but having that be in the room and also off axis. Not necessarily sitting right there in the middle of the sweet spot, but just being able to move around the room. I'm surprised what it does with the air in the room, and there's something magical there that I still think you're not telling us. There's something that's happening there on the low end with some fairy dust or something. I don't know what's going on there, but I felt I had literally the same bass response no matter where I was in the room, including the corner. We walked all around that, and it just was like, this is the ultimate party speaker because you are at the concert. That's my 20-second appraisal.
I agree with all of that. Okay, Roy.
Now, what was the question?
Briefly describe what these can do. Briefly, if you can.
I'll make it brief. I think what these speakers do is show the genius of Paul Klipsch and our maker.
Okay.
That's what I think it does.
That's
Wow.
spot on. That's great.
That's exactly
okay,
right.
So since we are kind of an audio video company, I want everybody to think about the scene in, oh man, it was the Star Wars where, I don't know, I think this is Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, it was Revenge of the Sith where Anakin, he becomes the bad boy and what's his name is giving it to the soon-to-be emperor. Okay. And he's all like contorted from, the lightning off the lightsaber, but he's sitting there acting all wounded and everything. But then he comes back and he goes, is it to Master Windu or whatever? He goes, ultimate power, ultimate power. And he zaps him off the ledge. That's what these are, man. No, it's not ultimate. Unlimited power.
Well, we did take the spark thing out of them, though, Mark, because we want people dying.
You know what? They're grounded.
I mean, if you love your music and you just don't want some limits, this is your gem. So I was just laughing because I was like, man, that's it. I hate that emperor, but man, I love that line. That's a great
Did you see that? Revenge of the Jews. Did you see that?
I'm not sure.
I think what you just said was that the Jubilees are capable of taking down Samuel L. Jackson. Wasn't that who he was, Mace Windu?
So I didn't say that. I just said he took out a Jedi, but
That's like a Chuck Norris statement.
I'm telling you, man, they're gonna get you in trouble with the neighbors. So you better make best friends with your neighbors. People.
And pay attention to the bonehead card with Paul and his funny hat. We're not kidding.
There were questions about that. So that was a Chad Charleston idea. I comped it out and put it together from that shot. But he came up with the concept. He was like, I just want people to know that don't abuse the system and don't abuse yourself. Okay, perfect. Paul would have thought the same thing probably.
Well, Paul included it in his early literature. He included because he was concerned the Klipsch room. The Klipsch room can also get you there if you let it. And he was and I kind of wanted to bring that back, not so much as I think like Paul, you only have 2 years. Protect them.
That's a good point. Everybody's kind of built with the same infrastructure. One point that I was just reminded of that I wanted to let everybody know is Roy referenced several videos as we were talking, and those videos will be available soon. We'll put them up on our YouTube channel. One is an extended bonehead cut of the Jubilee story of the set it in stone Roy Delgado interview of here's what happened in my life with Paul Klipsch through the development of the Jubilee. It is an hour-long interview with him, including overlay graphics that illustrate like the CES we were talking about and some of that stuff. But there's also other interviews. There's a great interview with Mark about the Paul W. Klipsch principles and some other ones that were on there, plus the ones we saw from Tony and Chad and the install setup video. So all those will be made available, and we look forward to your comments on those.
Roy, here's a toast to you, okay, Mr. Paul Klipsch prodigy. And I know you always redirect me when I say that, but I've said it in other videos where you haven't been with us, but you are. And Paul didn't have any heirs, right? But I'm telling you, man, you're his adopted son. Okay, you've made this happen. So I just want to give a tribute to you in front of the world. Okay, thank you for all your work and effort and passion that made this happen.
Yeah,
cheers,
these
brother.
guys will join us too, I'm
Thank
sure.
you, brother.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank
It's
you,
true.
Don't make me cry.
We should probably, before Mark cries again, we should probably think about wrapping this party up.
Glenn's been calling me out, man. He's ruthless.
I want to thank everybody for joining. All the comments are great. We love what you guys are. The response that these speakers have been received so well. And again, you can look on Klipsch.com for dealers to go and listen to them. I think Corey Harrison is on here in Paducah, Kentucky. You can go listen to a pair of Jubilees tomorrow if you want. He's got to get him set up, I think. Maybe you do have them set up, Corey. But reach out and try to find a way to listen to these speakers because you'll fall in love with them. They are sort of the pinnacle of horn-loaded goodness of everything we've tried to do since the dawn of our story as Klipsch. So I appreciate Mark, you, and Roy.
You guys.